that Jesus wept have the idea of weeping. We talked about it at the top of the hill, so just want to tie into that for a second. Jesus comes down that day, Palm Sunday Road. He comes back to the Mount of Olives and he weeps over the city. And he had that amazing, just declaration where he just says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how often I would gather you as a mother hen would gather children, you are not willing. And he just has this heart in one sense for the city that says he weeps. And it's one of those incredible ideas because the word in the Greek language for weeping is not like he sat here and there was just a tear rolling down the side of his eyes. The Greek word has the idea that he was convulsing. It has the idea that it wasn't just like a little sorrowful moment. It was just a brokenness over the fact that they didn't get it. They didn't see it in that day, and Jesus recognized what was coming. So that's, in one sense, again, tying what we talked about at the top of the hill, as well as tying into this location. But I want to just talk about that other concept. We were talking just over there as we looked in those graves, and then again, on this whole hillside, you see these Jewish graves, and I think you're probably getting it, but sometimes it just helps to hear it again and again. Why? I mean, why be buried here? What would make this such a popular place for Jews to be buried? Why would it cost, $50,000 just to buy, a grave plot here? Well, it tells us in Zechariah 14 that when Jesus comes back, in chapter 14, verse 1, it says, "Behold, the day of the Lord is coming." And it describes his coming, and then it goes down in verse 4 of that text. It says, "In that day his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives." So Jesus is going to come back. He's going to stand again on this mount. It says, "Which faces Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives will be split in two from the east to the west, making a very large valley. Half of the mountain shall move to the north, half of it to the south." So, I mean, you kind of have this concept that this is where the Messiah is coming back. Now, for the Jews today, they don't believe that Jesus is coming back for the second time, but they anticipate this verse for him coming the first time. So, believing that, it's as if, in one sense, to be buried here, it's to be on the front row. It's to be the first to meet the Messiah. It makes it so exciting because it's, in one sense, to say, I want to be first in line when the Messiah comes back. I mean, I don't know if it works for you. I mean, some of you guys are movie lovers, and you're the kind of person that would go stand in line or camp out overnight to get to be in the first showing, to be in the premiere, because you're just like, I want to be first. In a goofy way, that's this heart for seeing Jesus. It's in a sense of saying, he's coming back. I know he's coming. I know the Messiah is coming. And I just want to be first. I mean, I want to be as close to that as you can. I know that we joked about it, and I know some of people had told us, what happens if something happens to you over in Jerusalem. And I know I told people several times. It's like, well, this is the shortcut. I mean, this is the early. We get to see Jesus first. I mean, if something happens, it would be great if Jesus were to come back today. We would be first in line, which I think is an amazing thought. The Bible tells us in 2 Thessalonians that Jesus is going to come back in the clouds and that he's going to be bringing with him all those who are with him. And it's just an amazing thought. So lots of concepts. And again, just saying again what you've always saying, I recognize your brain probably like, okay, this. I mean, so many things happened here. But I just want you to remember a couple things. You just walked down Palm Sunday Road. Jesus being presented. You're in Dominus Flevit where Jesus wept, but you're on the Mount of Olives where Jesus is going to return. And right here, thinking about that, thinking about the gravesite you saw over there, thinking about the tombs that you can stand up and see down here, I just want to tell you there's a heart behind that I think most of us have, but we should have. I love the way it says it in Hebrews 9, that we are those who are longing for the coming of Christ, that we yearn for him coming, that Revelation 22 ends saying, that the Spirit and the bride are saying, come. I mean, we just want you to come back. I'm so excited for you to return. And he's going to return here. I mean, that's kind of exciting. We're looking back at the the Palm Sunday Road. We're looking back at what took place, but we're looking forward to his return. And you're in that place where that's happening. Does that make sense? Questions on that? Any questions about where you are, what you're seeing? Yes, Ashley. Right. Well, yeah, it's not saying that they're going to be first in line, but I'm just telling you that's the heart. The heart behind why they wanted to be buried here is because the Messiah is coming here. It's like, that's when the graves are going to open, and people are going to see him. It's like, well, we want to be like right there. So that's the heart. It's going to happen worldwide. Everybody's going to, yeah. In fact, the Thessalonians passage tells us that those who are asleep will by no means, will nobody precede those who are asleep, will all gather together. So it's not as if there's really like a first place, you know. It's not like you need to go buy a tomb here. But there is a thought of just thinking, hey, I like that. I mean, again, for me, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And when I think about it, I look at the grave sites, and it's like, that's what I want my heart to be. I want my heart, you know, to live. You know, I love what Paul says in Philippians. Whether I live or die, I'm going to see him. And I'm longing for that. I'm looking forward to seeing Jesus. You know, however it happens, whether he comes back in the rapture or I die, I'm so anticipating his return. And so again, for me, a picture's worth 1,000 words. I just look down at this gravesite, and it's like, you know, that's how I want. I mean, I want my life, I want my death to be one that's anticipating, you know, Jesus coming back. I love Joseph. When Joseph dies at the end of Genesis, he says, hey, bury my bones. Bury my bones, take my bones with you, you know, take my bones with you into the promised land, because he knows it's going to happen. And that's kind of this heart. It's like, I know it's going to happen. And if I don't see Jesus come back personally, he's going to come back, and I want my death to be lived in anticipation of his return.
First of all, it's only Jewish people can be buried here, and it's very expensive, so $50,000. And I will just tell you a story. One time, a young girl, after we shared here, asked her mom, and they were from, I don't remember, Detroit or something, and she was like, Mommy, when Jesus comes back, will he come to pick us up also? Don't worry, he will take you also from Roswell. But don't forget that these are people that people that are buried here they have this dream that and every generation thought that now it's going to happen. Even Paul thought that now it's going to happen. I mean, they all thought that now it's going to happen. When you read in the end of the Gospels, when Jesus talk about end times, he talk about like houses, like what you think, like two women will be grinding the wheat. One will be taken, one will stay. We don't grind, but he used that terminology. So people had excitement. Oh, it's going to happen in our time, and that's why they were very here because they think when that will happen, I want to be one of the first ones to be right there where the temple is going to be. So there's no temple yet. It needs to be built. There's no Antichrist. Well, maybe he exists, but we don't know who he is. So there's so many things needs to be happen that we don't know when and how it's going to happen. But in general, people can be buried here, but only in the Jewish part, not in